What's going on, Jerome's? So, of course, everyone knows that J.J. McCarthy is quarterback one of the Minnesota Vikings, ready to start a dynasty. The first of 12 Jerome Bardys in the next 10 years. It's going to be glorious. And connection with he and Kevin O'Connell a long time. It's going to be fantastic. And overall, as we talked about in our quarterback room breakdown earlier today, slinging Sam Howell, I like as a backup quarterback. I think that with Kevin O'Connell's tutelage, as well as with a better supporting cast around him, he can definitely improve upon his year starting in 2023 in Washington, where he was sacked 65 times through 21 picks. I think that he could calm down and be a very solid quarterback too. Rippon, I think, is capped in terms of his potential. I think that he can be a decent backup, but that's all he's going to be. And Brosmer, of course, is a wild card, formerly of the Minnesota Golden Gophers. But long story longer, Alec Lewis, the Athletic, had a mailbag and talked about the backup quarterback situation, and just sort of threw something in there that make you raise an eyebrow, right? And Lewis is extremely dialed in. He didn't buy into all of that, oh, the Vikings are going for Aaron Rodgers and stuff. Well, he sort of did. Also hedges his bet a little bit. Got a shouting match at PA, which is kind of hilarious. But how confident are you that the backup quarterback is currently on the rooster? From Mark D. D's nuts. Here's what this question is really asking. How much faith do you have in Sam Howell? Head coach Kevin O'Connell and the coaching staff love Brett Rippon's input in the room. Undrafted signee Max Brosner is similarly intelligent. Neither has the athletic talent or playing experience of Howell, who threw for nearly 4,000 yards and 17 starts in 2023. Spring practice only reveals so much, but Howell's arm talent is inarguable. The questions lay in his field vision, decision-making, and accuracy. But, hey, guess what? Basically, is he an upgrade over Nick Mullins? Yes. And Mullins was a backup here a long time for the Vikings. So I think that Howell at minimum is going to be an upgrade. He's basically like a better version of Nick Mullins, right? And you can live with that. I mean, Nick Mullins almost had 400 yards in the game. It was really good. But then things took a twist. O'Connell might believe that he and the Vikings offense could mitigate any potential risks those qualities could cause. In that way, Howell might not be crazy dissimilar from Sam Darnold. Whether that presents a high enough floor or not for a team as a commitment to winning in 2025 as Minnesota warrants contemplation. There aren't an abundance of alternatives. If the Vikings soured on Howell, they could try to sway longtime starter Ryan Tannehill. Plucking Kirk Cousins from the Falcons is another break glass in case of emergency possibility. Daniel Jones would have occupied this spot if the Vikings had their way from the outset. So as long as Howell comes close to that level, they may be satisfied. So for me, I do think that Howell is perfectly fine. I think that Sam Howell has a chance to rehab his career, be a solid backup quarterback, and move from there. But the whole Cousins thing, right? Now, we'll get to Tannehill, but the whole Cousins thing, I don't think that he's on the Falcons the full season. I think that he is traded before the trade deadline, but also I think that he'll be traded to a team that may lose their starting quarterback. Now, obviously, knocking on all the wood, that hopefully that's not the Vikings, but I don't think that Cousins would waive his no-trade clause just to be the backup with the Vikings. And I don't think the Vikings would give up significant draft capital and or pay a significant part of Cousins' guaranteed salary this year to make that happen. So it would have to be an absolute worst-case scenario where something happens to quarterback one, something happens to quarterback two, and like we're talking about like absolute worst-case scenario. I think then maybe the Vikings will be motivated to do something. But I think that another team that's unforeseen right now would make a move for Cousins in season. And Kurt, last year coming off that Achilles at age 36, just clear that he wasn't it, and he got benched. And I do worry about. Hey, I think Kirk Cousins might be done. Right, because of the Achilles 2 years ago, he was in shotgun most of the time because he couldn't be under center, even though he was operating in a similar offense to the Falcons because they knew like he couldn't operate with the footwork, he couldn't push off. There was a clear lack of zip on that ball, and that was it. And Cousins is going to be 37 in August, and with all those hoops, the no trade clause, the salary that the Vikings would probably have to pick up some, the swapping of draft capital, I don't know, right? And with Tannehill is 37 in July. Also, he was out of football in 2024, so that could be good or bad. He could be fresh, he could be whatever. But I think these are absolute if the poop hits the fan and then the fan like sprays everything all over the wall situation, no. Like honestly, if JJ is our option one, but if something happened with Howell or whatnot, I think the Vikings they'd be better served going down the route of what they considered during the draft of, hey, they made a draft pick swap for Sam Howell, but also in that mix was Aiden O'Connell of the Raiders, who's no longer viable as a starter because they got Geno Smith, and of course in Tennessee they got Cam Ward, so Will Levis is available. Will Levis is the ultimate mama I can change him type player. Right, but I think the Vikings much more likely to go down that route if the poopeth did hitteth the faneth, rather than going down the Cousins or Tannehill route. But I think it's something to keep in mind. But also, it doesn't matter because quarterback one is going to be getting it done, and I think that Howell will be a very competent quarterback too as he rehabs his career. And I think that his upside, maybe not as high, but isn't as dissimilar as Sam Darnold, where someone who has the physical tools, struggled with bad coaching, bad supporting cast, but of course here in the great state of Minnesota, it's mama I can change him, and how could get back on the path. But of course none of that matters because quarterback one. There you go. But your thoughts are thoughts. The Athletic lists Kirk Cousins and Ryan Tannehill as emergency, in case of emergency, break glass quarterback for the Vikings this year. Let us know. Comment section. You guys are the best you know what to do. Skol, production value.